Oh, I love when my internet cuts out. That is so fun. Let's see. Where's my thing? Alright, we're live at least. Alright, dude, we're back. I assume we're back anyways. Welcome back, Cinerath. My internet is too good right now. Yeah, dude. Very cool. Alright, I linked it in the two places, but we just lost all of our viewers. Hopefully they come back. Alright, where did it cut out? Okay, we cut out here. Dude. Not all of them. Still don't get how Val did 36. It was crazy. Ah, that's so annoying, dude. I don't know what it is about my internet, but sometimes it just stops working and you need to unplug it and plug it back in and then it works again. I don't know. Are we back? Looks like people are starting to come back. Alright. Hopefully no more problems the rest of the stream. But is what it is, right? Alright. This is kind of where we were when it cut out. We so back start the agency music this time. Now there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. Alright, Jirachi goes down to the vacuum wave. Now Urshifu comes in to revenge kill this with the Aqua Jet. As far as I can tell, this is where my internet cut out. Alright, as Tentacruel switches in. This is like when Blue would DC from every second Overwatch game. Yeah. Super epic, super fun. But now with Surging Strikes versus this physically defensive Tentacruel, with Terra Water, it's looking like it might 2-hit KO. 15, 14, 14, and Sludge Bomb comes out, but it gets the poison immediately. So this Urshifu might not be able to 1v1 this. It kind of depends on rolls. Because if we get this 15 3 times, this Tentacruel is going to go down. There's a 14, 14, can we get a 15? We do not, we get a 13. So Tentacruel survives, goes for a slow flip turn into the Goldango, which is going to be Choice Scarf, revealed earlier, and just go for a Dazzling Gleam. Now Darkrai comes in, we know this is Choice Scarf as well though. So Tentacruel can't really take this on anymore, it's at 2%. So Goldango gonna go down to Sludge Bomb. Valiant comes in, can Vacuum Wave Oko this? Not even close. Only does 45%, and as it's gonna go down to Sludge Bomb, and obviously Tentacruel not gonna be able to take that as well. But remember, this Darkrai did flinch that Electros earlier, and if you're able to get off like a Super Fang or a U-turn, this Darkrai would have been in range of that Vacuum Wave. So a little bit unlucky. What can I say? Hopefully this is not a theme of this series, right? Right, guys? Is Darkrai like broken though? It might be. Surely more broken than Valiant. I know what you can say. What can I say? Please tell me. I need to know. Shouldn't have gone Eel when they could have gone Val. Yep. But it is DFL at the end of the day. Alright, so now we have Fierce Flamethrower with a very good looking team. Well, this team, the colors are fantastic. A lot of handsome sprites. What can I say? Good looking team. Whereas this is Mishmesh. Ugly looking team. Very ugly. So Yep. You don't want to get flinched, run cloak. So true. So true. Alright, so we see a Meowscarada Keldeo with the Iron Treads. This is something that you've seen quite a lot this year. And this time it's paired with a Dragonite as well as like a Terra Mew, which is interesting. And then Toxapex is like the main defensive glue to this team. Really cool stuff. On the other side, this is much more looking like a PZZ draft, if you know what I mean. You have the Great Tusk, you have the Dragalge, the Belly Bolt, the Gren. These are mons that I just associate with him. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but I feel like I've seen him use Belly Bolt quite a bit, and obviously Terra Gren as well. Is this Terra Gren? No, it's just a regular Gren. It's Terra Enam. You heard the Fierce Flamethrower guy is tough? He's so tough. Alright. So you have Terra Water Enam, and on the other side we see Terra Ground on the Keldeo and Terra Electric on the Mew. Let's see how this one goes. Dragonite leads off into the Belly Bolt. Gonna just Earthquake. Guys, want to see a magic trick? I'm gonna make a Belly Bolt disappear. Damn. So that's a Life Orb Dragonite off lead. Just gonna Oko that Belly Bolt with a crit Earthquake. That's rough out here. Now Enam going to revenge kill this. But Moonblast and a Toxapex. That did 12. So I'm thinking this is an Assault Vest Toxapex, right? It's gotta be AV to do 12, right? Maybe it's like a bulky Enam? Wait. That looks AV effects. It does, it does. And the Infestation also makes me think even more that it's AV. This is so funny though. I think you forgot to say you're bad. Hello? Can you say my bad, please, please, please? It'll make me feel so much better. And he says my bad. It's like, nah, you didn't mean it. This guy's too funny. Oh, this reminds me of when I was playing, I think it was it PGP? And they made a rule that you had to say GG every game as like sportsmanship. So after I completely demolished this guy, I told him, you know, you have to say GG. This is like the salty version of that. That was a long time ago. But the Infestation and the Ice Beam, Peck's able to take any hit from Dragalge, so it's just free chip. Now Jirachi gonna come in, but again, this Pex isn't really fearing anything. Even a Psychic is probably doing like 35%, so willing to stay in, get a little bit of chip. But with dual screens Jirachi, he wants to go Treads and maybe get a knockoff on something. It's slow Treads, slower than the Jirachi. So Great Tusk gonna come in, is booster speed as rocks go up. Now we go for a bulk up on an Earth Power. That is 28%. Oh, it's Life Orb Treads. That's pretty strong. Mish is living up to his Showdown name. He appears to be turning into Garg. So true. Alright, so Tusk does get one bulk up in. Do we go for a second one? We do not. We just take our KO on Treads, which is pretty reasonable. And now what? Keldeo comes in. If this is Choice Scarf, which it is, it's going to knock out the Tusk. Yeah, and now Enam comes. It's Boots Enam. Gonna Terra Water and go for Agility, okay? So with the screens up, we're trying to boost past this Toxapex, which does not feel very wise. It's a full HP AV Pex. Sludge Bomb is going to poison eventually. There it is. So yeah, you're able to like Earth Power here, I guess, but a nice pivot to Dragonite. Now this E-Speed plus Poison is threatening a KO, but we actually pivot to Toxapex once. I guess E-Speed wasn't in range, and now we go back to Dragonite, but Mesh calls it with a Moonblast, so really nice prediction there. Now Pex comes right back in, gonna have to take this Earth Power, but still only does 58%. Kind of gross, but it is gonna be Enam taking another KO, if he gets the turn right, which he didn't. That's tough. Expected the Meowscarada to come in trying to absorb an Earth Power, but no such luck. Terra Enam has to be broken. Some are saying this. Alright, Jirachi gets up another set of screens quite easily, and then encores the Mew. And Mew stays in? Do we have a way to break this Mew? Gren comes in, is it? Oh, it's switcheroo. So now this is locked into a Calm Mind. We're just gonna stay in and sack this thing to get a free switch, it looks like. Goes for a U-turn. Okay. Okay, Jirachi coming in here is a little bit weird. I don't understand that one. Keldio's in, Dragology's in, light screen's up, Keldeo has to switch. As Mew comes in on the sack to Draco Meteor. Burning screen turns, yeah. I see Peck's in. Takes a -2 Draco, and that does a lot of damage. I think that might be Specs Dragology if it's doing that much at -2 to an AV Pex. Yeah. Here's a Reflect. We see a light screen go up. No light screen is a little bit interesting, because now this Dragology has to take a full power Hydro Pump. I guess we're not going to deal with that. Pex is just going to get sacked off to another Specs Draco Meteor. The Mesh is coming back into this game. A triple axle miss is also going to be pretty helpful. Does -2 Draco kill the Masquerada? Pretty close. 87%, and now the Dragology is going to go down. Yeah, there's the 3 hits. Now Greninja comes in. Oh, but it's not choice to Meowscarada, and the Flower Trick is going to Oko it. Yeah, and Jirachi comes in. Gets the U-turn off, but Keldeo Last Mon is going to wrap this one up very easily. Crazy game, I'm not gonna lie, that was crazy. Bro, not saying my bad after making such a big deal of it earlier. True, he didn't even say my bad when the Meowscarada missed. Some are saying it's a double standard. Alright, and now we have game 3. So right now the Booloos are up 2-0, and here we have OG Albina versus Ultraviolet. And they have the same team, pretty much. Right, so the Steel type is a little different. You have Jirachi versus Klefki, and then there's like 4 Mons being the exact same, and then a Rotom Last versus Sinistra Last. Alright. So what are the advantages and disadvantages on each team, right? So OG Albina, his Gliscor is definitely better than Ultraviolet's Gliscor. Both with and without Terra, right? Because I think they're both Terra in this game. This is Terra Gliscor and Terra Moth on both sides. So Ultraviolet probably more so incentivized to Terra the Iron Moth, if I had to guess. Whereas on the other side, OG Albina more so wants to Terra the Gliscor and go for a sweep that way. The Terrapagoses are pretty interesting. I think Owen's is a little bit worse, although you could make an argument. Actually, no, you can't. There's a Jirachi and a Sinistra and a Moth if you need it, whereas on the other side it's a Klefki and a Moth, which is definitely not as strong. But at the same time, Klefki a little bit better at taking on Moon than the Jirachi, so a little bit different, but it is mostly a mirror match. Is that small internet sensation OG Albina? Yeah, many are saying this. Alright, let's take a look at these Terras. Both sides going to be Terra Fairy Moth, probably to insulate against the Roaring Moon sweeps. And then we're going to see Terra Dragon on Ultraviolet's Gliscor and Terra Normal on Owen's Gliscor. Alright, so Terra Dragon, what does that say? It's probably going to be specially defensive, trying to take on the Iron Moth. So Terra Dragon would give you a great fire resist in that case. But you're also able to check the Rotom Wash, which is pretty important. So maybe Spadef SD on Ultraviolet's Gliscor. And then Terra Normal, almost certainly going to be Facade knockoff in this kind of matchup. Just kills everything, you know what I'm saying? So let's get into the game. Roaring Moon going to lead off into Terrapagos. This is a pretty free U-turn to break the shell. But leading with Terrapagos, you're always willing to give up the shell, so that's not a big deal. It's planned. And we see a red card into a Calm Mind. But Rotom is the one that's forced in, which is not the end of the world. You can just go for a T-Wave, you can go for a Pain Split, a number of things. A Starstone comes out to 66. We get the Citrus Berry. Do we see a T-Wave? We do see a T-Wave. which is nice, slows down the Terapagos, and now a Hydro Pump does 24%, which is not that much. And now we go Gliscor. It looks like nothing on Owen's team one-shots the Terapagos at 64, which is really rough, to be honest. But using Gliscor HP to trade with it is probably unwise. I would have preferred to go Roaring Moon and just give up HP on that, because +1 Terapagos does not OHKO Roaring Moon unless it has Dazzling Gleam. If you look at the matchup, you need a move for Klefki, and you have Calm Mind, Terra Starstorm. So that's already 3 slots. Then the last move, you would assume it to be Spin, Agility, even Ice Beam for the Gliscor, all of those more likely than a Dazzling Gleam. So I think going Roaring Moon and just getting a knockoff to it KOing this Terapagos, and then if they switch, like, what are they switching in a knockoff, right? Nothing wants to take it. So almost certainly going to be a 2-KO on Terapagos, and you preserve the Gliscor HP. But here, Gliscor goes for a Swords Dance, takes a +1 Starstorm, which is EV to live, but just barely. And now Facade is going to knock it out at the cost of, you know, Terra being expended and your entire Gliscor, basically. Now Roaring Moon comes in, and we have to switch into Klefki on the knockoff. Gets a crit. Now Reflect goes up, and Earthquake looks like it might be a 2-hit KO, so a Spike is going to go up as we see our Brick Break come out. Here, another Brick Break is going to happen, so another Spike is pretty free. Now, the Roaring Moon comes in, is Scarf from the way he's playing it, goes for a Dragon Claw, which is going to allow Gliscor in to get the Toxcorp activated, and now Owen sacks his own Gliscor to the Scale Shot. And now, that Gliscor, which was looking so threatening, now Ultraviolet able to take that down. Terapagos in to revenge kill this Gliscor, takes the Earthquake, breaks the shell, and we are packing the Ice Beam to one-shot this thing. Alright. Now Roaring Moon is going to come in. Does not KO Terapagos from this range, but this is a similar trade that we saw that I was talking about earlier, where Terapagos can come in, 2-hit KO Terapagos, and take the hit. See, it only does 53%. This is a pretty fine trade for Ultraviolet. Now Roaring Moon comes in with a Scarf U-turn, gonna knock out the opposing Moon. And now Iron Moth comes in. And now the opposing Iron Moth comes in. Now here's the problem, right? Owen does not have Terra available, but Ultraviolet does. So it's a little bit of a 50-50 whether you want to attack the Iron Moth in its base form, or if you want to predict the Terra Fairy and go for a Sludge Wave, right? So in Ultraviolet's position, this Iron Moth is probably pretty likely to be carrying Sludge Wave, so you probably don't want to be Terraing this turn, which is why Owen is going to go for a Meteor Beam. Wins the speed tie, and misses the Meteor Beam. Oh man, that is rough. But it's still not the end of the world, because if we win the next speed tie, then it's totally fine, honestly. You get your chip on Iron Moth, and then Scarf Moon with knockoff looks like it might just sweep, depending on if Sinisha can live or not. I think they said after the game that this was Culverberry or something, but I guess we'll never know, right? Here's a knockoff onto the Iron Moth. Gets rid of a Custap Berry, but locked in a knockoff, not going to do the job, and Sludge Wave just going to 2-hit KO. Then we see the GG into LOL. You love that? Alright. And now the Booloos are actually up 3-0. Is this a repeat from the first series? I mean, the first series they won in 5 games, the Cudgels. Is this going to be a repeat? We go into game 4. Now this one has some lore to it, right? Here's the thing, right? This is not the first time that Nazarmat and Yahoodles played in the semifinals. What happened was Showdown was having a memory leak issue where the servers were crashing all the time, and they decided to play on the main server instead of Smog Tours. So the Showdown servers crashed in the middle of the game, and the game was lost. However, Nazarmat had a completely won endgame. I'm talking, you need this specific set, you need to crit every move type of outs for Yahoodle. So for all intents and purposes, we can say 100% win path for Nazarmat. And I say this, he was 3 turns away from winning the game with Urshifu. I'll say it, I'll guarantee it. But because the servers crashed, and because of some precedent, they had to replay the game. And at this point, Nazarmat has revealed all of his techs, Yehoodles has revealed all of his techs, and now it's just messy, you know what I mean? So this is the second game that they've played with these drafts. And it's going to be Terra Electric or Shifu, and then on the other side, it's going to be Terra Fire on the Raging Bolt. Alright, did Yehoodles say my bad at least? I don't think so. So, let's look at this game. Alright, Scarf Meowscarada gonna U-turn on this Deoxys. Could be a counter here, but it's a Trick instead. So Trick's a Sticky Barb to the Hydreigon, which was holding a Rocky Helmet, interesting enough. And now a Taunt on the rocks. And Sunny Day is interesting. So Hydreigon gonna knock out the Deoxys with a Draco Meteor, but now Iron Tread's gonna come in. So basically saying, hey, I have Mega Horn, you should switch. But Nazarmat does not read the writing on the walls. Although to be fair, what is he supposed to switch into, right? Life Orb Tread's gonna take out that Hydreigon with the Mega Horn. It was quite a decision to force the replay. Yeah, I agree. Now Raichu's gonna come in, go for a Focus Blast, and miss the Iron Treads. Awesome. Now Rapid Strike comes in. And we're gonna Drain Punch into a Moltres, which unlucky. Now a Swords Dance comes out as the Moltres goes for a U-turn, and now something else has to take on this Urshifu. It's going to be Raging Bolt, but with Terra Fire, you often expect this to be Scarf on this type of team with like the sun. Is it Scarf on the Raging Bolt? It is. So Volt Switch gonna force the Terra Electric, and a Drain Punch is going to 2-hit KO Moltres. So the Drain Punch recovery gonna mean this Urshifu goes all the way back up to full. But now the Iron Treads is able to revenge kill this. So an Earthquake is forced here, gonna get a nice switch to Meowscarada. Now do we have a low kick here? Yehoodles not willing to stay in and find out. Gonna go Raging Bolt on a presumed low kick, but is actually a Flower Trick. And it's actually a Scarf Meowscarada. So it gets a little bit more chip on the Raging Bolt before going down. But losing the Meowscarada there definitely feels unnecessary, considering it had a full HP Pheasantipity and a full HP Treads. And the Weather Ball was not active from the sun, which I assume is the reason why your Sunny Day Deoxys, right? Is to be Weather Ball, Raging Bolt. Although I suppose Terra Blast in the sun is probably strong enough to OHKO Treads and do like decent damage to everything anyways. Still, would have preferred a Fez pivot there. And now a Light Screen goes up, we get a U-turn on the Aloe into the Iron Treads, but a Flip Turn is coming, gets a little bit of chip on that guy. Procs the Weakness Policy, and now it could be a Speed Tie to determine the game, as you can see. With a Light Screen up, the only thing that really kills this Treads is the opposing Treads. And of course, Yehoodles wins the tie. And at this point, everything is dead to a Life Orb Treads. That gets OHKO'd, and obviously the Terra Electric Urshifu also going to be OHKO'd. Aqua Jet not enough to make it through the Treads, and that's going to be the game. Can a mod turn off timer on Smogters if you ask? I have no idea. I assume so. But whatever. So now, the Booloos are up 4-0 against the Ballad of Dragons. So we're going to need a miracle if we want to see tie breaks. But we have Bruno to set the scene. Set the scene. And he's going up against I Love Goth Latinas. Who is this again? Let me see. This is Jeremy D. Goat. Alright, so Jeremy, going back after a little bit of a hiatus from Team Tours, he was really great back in the day, and now he's in the semifinals. Game-clinching game, or series-clinching game. You love Goth Latinas? I mean, who doesn't, right? Alright, so if you look at this matchup, G-Darm kind of kills everything. but there is a Miltank and there is a Rotom Wash, so two pretty reasonable ice resists. Superpower does kind of smoke both of them, but yeah, at least some kind of counterplay from Jeremy. However, this also is a replayed game from Disconnections, so we love that as well. In the previous game, it was not actually that big. It was only a few turns into the game, but some things were revealed. Mainly, the Gothitelle was able to trap the Vileplume, which was Black Sludge and not Shed Shell. And the Grimmsnarl was revealed to be Bulk Up with Bulk Up and something. I forget exactly, but a little small amount of information was revealed. I think this Darm was also revealed to be Choice Band ahead of time, and the Mew also was slightly revealed, but not the end of the world. So Darm comes in, goes for a CB U-turn on the physically defensive Rotom Wash, which is going to put it in range of 2 Icicle Shards, it looks like, maybe after Rocks. So now Mew comes in on the Volt Switch, and we see Grimmsnarl get a free Bulk Up on the switch to Feeny, and it's just going to get one-shot by Specs Feeny. So you love that. Yeah, this team from Bruno is a lot of choice breakers, and then Zeraora to clean up, basically. Now, Mew going to be the switch into Celesteela on the Meteor Beam turn. It's not going to take that much damage, 38%, so this could be an Assault Vest Mew. And a Dragon Tail definitely lends itself to that idea. So it gets rid of the Celesteela boost, gets it off the field, and now Rotom is forced in, takes a Psychic, and that's definitely in Icicle Crash range. So now the only Pokemon that really takes a Darm hit is that Miltank, which has now hit the field. Now Skarm comes in, goes for the Fast Rocks. Faster than Miltank is kind of crazy. Gets 2 layers up, and this Skarm definitely threatening to get all 3 layers of spikes plus Rocks up. We're going to see Rotom Wash come in on the spikes. Now, if this Skarm has an attacking move, it can just kill the Rotom, I would assume so. But it does switch into Goth, and so that allows a Pain Split to go through. But this Goth is faster than Rotom, and it does get the defog off, which is super important, but now the Rotom is trapped. So the next time Skarm comes in to get its hazards up, it will be up for good. Now Feeny comes in on the Garchomp EQ, and now we're threatening a Specs Moonblast as Miltank comes in, which I thought was really crazy of a play, because if this thing gets Moonblasted, you will just lose to Darm. Like, it comes out and you will lose. There's nothing that can be done about it. But it does work out. So with the Thick Fat, able to take that Ice Beam, goes for Seismic Toss though, and allows Skarm back in for free. And now this is just a free Rocks for the Skarmory. I don't see why you would do anything else, but we do Roost instead. Just valuing the HP on the Skarm, I guess. Now the Zera is forced to take on the Celesteela with the Fire Blast, doing a reasonable amount of damage, and we Plasma Fist into the Vileplume, and it is Black Sludge. Now Skarm comes in on the switch to Garchomp. But we go for a Brave Bird, which is like, why did we do this? You know what I mean? I don't get it. Surely Rocks is a better play. Surely anything is a better play than Brave Birding into a Helmet Garchomp, right? But it is DFL at the end of the day. Now we have Feeny getting a free switch in, threatening a Moonblast once again as Steela comes in, and once again clicking Ice Beam. Why is Skarm faster than Chomp? Your guess is as good as mine. Now Zera pivots out on a Flash Cannon, which is nice, but it now is no longer able to live a Fire Blast. So next time Steela comes in, it will be a guessing game on what move it clicks. Now Play Roughs on the Garchomp switch was a really nice play and reveals to be pads on the Zeraora, but sadly this is not a 2-hit KO on this Garchomp. So Darm is going to switch in on this Earthquake, take that hit, but if the Skarm was faster, the Darm is almost certainly faster than the Garchomp, so an Icicle Crash is in position to pick up a KO. Now Celesteela comes in, a gracious donation from Jeremy, and now finally the Miltank comes in, goes for a Seismic Toss, but this allows the Feeny in, and Moonblast should pick up this endgame. But it's actually slower than Miltank. But I digress. Why are we milk drinking here? I do not know. We should be seismic tossing this guy. Can we get a seismic toss going? Because he's waiting for a low roll. That was a low roll. Can we seismic toss here? It kills the Feeny. I promise. Okay, he wants to get the toxic. Oh, that roll. Oh. Okay, so I saw the vision there. He wanted to toxic and then milk drink to end up at a higher HP than he would if he just seismic tossed. But it's risky for a number of reasons. One is a crit. The other is, you saw here, it's just a high roll. And he's gonna pay for that. Now Chomp comes in, but this is a bulky Chomp. It's slower than Feeny. That's gonna be the game. That doesn't even work because he's faster, no? True. It just doesn't work. No. He's just stupid. Okay. Yeah. So, the comeback is real. Bruno puts his team on the board, but it is still 4-1. You have to win the next 3 remaining matches. Alright, and now we have Money Guy versus Twin Torbs of Doom. This is going to be Voltorb Lover 483762. That is his name, and I'm not wearing it out. Guess Jeremy is not de-goat after all. Man. Alright, this matchup. So I actually did help Money Guy prep this one a little bit. Basically, all you need to know is that Arcanine is literally God in this matchup and cannot die to anything. Also, Gallade is God and kills everything. Also, Lando, pretty good, right? Lando and Gallade form this offensive duo where like the best switch into both of them is the Uxie. So if one of them breaks the Uxie for the other one to sweep, then, you know, we call that synergy out here. Why didn't Money Guy draft me? Does he hate me? Yep. Can you blame him? Alright. But either way, Money Guy's arch nemesis is Scolipede. If you remember back in the day, for people who are around like literally 7-8 years ago, Money Guy was famous for losing to Scolipede. Like, famous. Like, that was his one mon that he could just never beat, no matter how hard he tried. So here, I mean, his whole team season is on the line. He has to beat a Scolipede. So that'll be a fun one. Let's get into the game. Alright, Lando leads off into the Gardevoir. This is favorable for the Landorus, but Gardevoir stays in anyways. There's lots of Landorus builds that can just 2-hit KO with a Sludge Wave while living a Hyper Voice. But we're going to U-turn into our Klefki instead, get a little bit of chip on the Gardevoir, and takes this Hyper Voice, which will crit immediately turn 1, which is quite fitting. I said this last time and you said, I don't remember this when I said Money was in shambles on a Scully sweep. Well, now I do remember this, so ha. Alright, Calm Mind Gardevoir. Calm Minding on a Klefki is pretty brave. Makes me think this might have Refresh or something, or Heal Bell. Some kind of way to cleanse status. Because it's not HP Fire, we've already revealed that. So is this like Wish Heal Bell maybe? I could see that as a potential build. But here, this Flash Cannon going to basically trade 1v1 with this Gardevoir while getting a Spike Up and having a Light Screen for at least another turn. Now Knockoff, gonna knock out the Gardevoir, and now Uxie finds its way on the field. Probably gonna be a Rocks here as Lando comes in to trade Rocks, potentially? No, just goes for a Knockoff instead. We really want damage on this Uxie to open up the Gallade. Alright, now Infernape finds its way on the field. And with Rocks up, it's a little bit hard to switch into, but Arcanine, you know, even though it's taking Rocks, still able to take on even this Earthquake from Life Orb Infernape and kind of shrug it off. Able to just Morning Sun on this, but he reveals Focus Blast. And misses. So, a little bit of justice throughout the series, but yeah, definitely crazy. I'm rooting on my boy here. Alright, a Gunk Shot comes out, but with the Intimidate, Clefable able to take that on. And then in a stroke of good luck, Voltorb Lover just decides, hey, Scolipede is going to be the T-Wave fodder of choice. And now Scolipede, because it's Gen 6, can never win. because Parrot is 1/4 speed in this gen, which is super devastating, and Arcanine still able to check it no matter what at the end of the day. So the Kryptonite is crippled. Arcanine finds its way all the way back at full HP. Now Landorus in on the Uxie is yawned, so could just go for a U-turn, get some chip, and cleanse the yawn at the same time. Go into Clefable on the next yawn, and now probably a similar thing, just back to Landorus. You can take the rocks, it's all good. Letting Money Guy play in DFL has to be a lack of judgment from the mods. I mean, he wasn't drafted in DFL, so... or in DCL. And here Arcanine dodges the Fire Blast, which, I'll be honest, probably put it in range of the Focus Blast, which will also not connect. So this Arcanine, 252 innovation, really paying off, and this E-Speed is going to pick off this Infernape. And now it looks like a whole lot of Pokemon that lose to Gallade, lose to Lando, all that stuff. So like this Lando is very close to winning. This Uxie is the only thing really in its way, or maybe a Scarf Crook, but really not a whole lot out there. We're just spamming Yawn here. Eventually something will go to sleep, or you get momentum on the Lando switch, which is what's going to happen. We're going to see Crocodile come in here. Is it Scarf? We're going to find out here. And it does go for Pursuit, catches the Lando on the switch out. But what this does do is allow the Mega Gallade in for a Swords Dance opportunity. Here's the Pursuit. We don't even need to Swords Dance, just goes for a Drain Punch, knocks out the Crook, all the way back up to full HP. Now Empoleon comes in, but another Drain Punch comes out. Chople Berry is eaten, but the response is just a Waterfall into Aqua Jet. Not going to be enough to knock out this Gallade. Not even close. And another Drain Punch is going to mean this Gallade is still quite healthy. And he's just going to forfeit. So, a little bit lucky for Money Guy, but it is what it is. Finds his way into a victory, and now we might have a series on our hand. It's 4-2. Only 2 more games to force tie breaks. And now we have VGC. Alright, again, you need water, a snack, you need to go to the bathroom, now's the time. We're going to look at this VGC game. Can't believe Money Guy got lucky on his birthday. Believe it, this happens a lot. Would have been too tough. So true. The streak is gone. Good night. Who let him draft his PFP? It was lost in team preview, literally. Oh, and again, remember what I said last time about the VGC? Everyone hates fairies, and then you pull up and the Terra preview is fairy, 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 fairy. This matchup was awful. I mean, Look It Up is just different. I don't know. Oh, we do have the guy in the chat. This is you. HYS. Is it X Highs? Is that how you pronounce it, or is it acronym kind of thing? X HYS. X Highs? I would assume it's X Highs. Either way. Alright, a little bit of a combination here of like the Valiant Chi-Yu, always pretty strong. Raging Bolt, pretty strong Mon. A lot of power. Is pronounced Hiss. Alright, good to know. Looks like you should have drafted Qianpao and put a D9 next to him. So true. Most people would benefit from having a Qianpao and a Dragonite. What can I say? Alright, so we see a Roaring Moon, Volcarona. A lot of Tailwind options here. What else is there? There's an Urshifu. Was this Rapid Strike? I feel like it should be Rapid Strike. We'll see though. It's Terra Water, so I would assume it's Rapid Strike. Let's get into the game. So, yep, there's the Rapid Strike and Volcarona lead up against Valiant and Raging Bolt. Alright. Alright. So what are the threats here? So Valiant could potentially go for a Moonblast into Urshifu. That's the only real threat here. This Urshifu not in a very favorable position versus these two Mons, obviously threatened by a Thunderclap and a Moonblast, so probably going to see a switch in that slot or a Protect. Maybe maybe a Terra and a Scarf. You know what you could do? You could Rage Powder, actually. Rage Powder covers all those things. So actually Urshifu is fine as long as it's next to the Volcarona, right? But maybe if this Bolt is like Safety Goggles, that would be really devastating for Urshifu, but that's information you can carry into game 2 at least. So I would expect to see Urshifu go for like a Surging Strikes into Valiant, maybe even Terra to guarantee the Oko, as the only switch in like to water is going to be that Thwacky. This Valiant is Terra Grass though, so maybe that is an option, but I find that hard to believe that you would Terra Grass in this position. So I'd expect to see Rage Powder and a Surging Strikes into Valiant, or maybe a Close Combat into Raging Bolt, either one, but definitely a Rage Powder here, or Protect. Protect is fine as well, as we see a Taunt, which is actually super smart, honestly. I didn't even think of that, because if you Taunt, you can't Rage Powder the next turn. Alright, and now, because you no longer have that, okay, so Struggle Bug is like pretty nice into the 2 special attackers, but now that you don't have the Rage Powder option, the Urshifu is forced out into the Iron Boulder. As a Heat Wave comes out, does big damage to the Valiant, and we double into the left slot because it's forced out, may as well. Now another Protect on that slot, on the Spirit Break, really nice stuff. And we see another Heat Wave, but it misses the Valiant, crucially. And now this Landers is threatening stuff like Rock Slide in this position. So what Terra is this Volcarona? It is Terra Fairy, which could definitely be a click here. I would expect this to be a Spirit Break into the Iron Boulder slot and a Rock Slide from the Lando. We see no Terra though, so there is that Spirit Break and Heat Wave comes out. Valiant lives on 1 and there is the Rock Slide, but we are Chardy Berry. Okay, so we are able to live 1 at least. Now Urshifu comes in, and I would assume this to be a Aqua Jet into the Valiant, and then a Heat Wave, but Hiss makes a really nice play here, goes for the Suicide Wide Guard, which is out prioritizing Aqua Jet. And now you're going to see a really fun interaction that even though this Heat Wave is going to be single target, it's actually protected by the Wide Guard. You actually see this in singles sometimes on stuff like Steelix to, you can Toxic something and then you can Wide Guard opposing Earthquakes. And you can Toxic stall ground types like that. Stuff like Garchomp, if you're able to catch it with a Toxic, you can wall it forever, which is super funny. It's a very rare tech, but I have seen it before. And that's going to come in handy here, saves the Landers, and that next Rock Slide is going to knock out the Volcarona. So now Hiss going into the end game with a 1 Pokemon lead and a Raging Bolt position in front of a Urshifu Rapid. But the last mon is going to be a Roaring Moon. Neither player has used up their Terra though, and a Terra Water on Urshifu does not feel super impactful, so I'm looking at, what is this Roaring Moon Terra going to be? It's going to be Terra Fairy. So that does look pretty nice here. If you're able to Terra Fairy and potentially just go for a knockoff on the Landorus, or just, go for an Aqua Jet on the Landorus with the Urshifu, and then like a Dragon Claw into the Raging Bolt, which the Bolt is going to be Terra Poison, so you can't like Terra out of the Dragon Claw hitting you at 100%. But you can remove the weakness at least. So maybe it's better to knock off the Raging Bolt and Aqua Jet the Lando. What's the Lando? Lando's Terra Fairy. I don't think that will like live in Urshifu hit necessarily. Does go for Terra Water and into the Raging Bolt. Doubles into Raging Bolt actually. That's a good play. I didn't even consider that, but I should have. So Roaring Moon can't KO the Raging Bolt if it Terra's Poison, but it can with the help of a Terra Water Aqua Jet. And if the Bolt is guaranteed to go down there, you're Aqua Jetting to prevent Thunderclap from coming out onto your Urshifu. If you're able to guarantee the knockout, Landorus is not a threat. You don't need your Terra on Roaring Moon to beat the Landorus. You only would need it to beat the Bolt. That's actually a super smart play. Stomping Tantrum comes out, only does 45, and now it's Chi-Yu against these two. But with Terra being expended, now it's just a very safe, just Aqua Jet the Chi-Yu and knock off the Lando play. You could even target the Chi-Yu if you wanted to with the Roaring Moon, just in case the Aqua Jet doesn't kill. A Breaking Swipe, even better. Yeah. Is Look It Up him? Well, this is only game 1, but it's looking like it so far. So really nice end game from Look It Up. After it looked like a pretty good position from Hiss in the mid to late game, but Look It Up able to just find his way And now we see game 2. Alright, let's get into it. We see Volcarona Urshifu once again versus Lando and Thwackey, a bit of a adaptation from Hiss. Now we see a protect, probably a double protect on the fake out turn. There's no real threat of a setup opportunity here. And there we go, we see a rock slide and a fake out. Now the Landorus is going to Terra. We see a Grassy Glide puts Urshifu in range of a Stomping Tantrum potentially. But with the Heat Wave and the Surging Strikes, Lando is going to go down. Again, Hiss wasting his Terra and still going down to the ensuing attacks. A little bit rough out there. This Thwackey does get big damage on the Urshifu though, so maybe it's worth it. We see a Chi-Yu switch in. And now with Chi-Yu able to go for a Heat Wave here, a pretty threatening turn. As Volcarona going to take more than half from that Life Orb Heat Wave. But this Struggle Bug is going to be really obnoxious as Raging Bolt comes in. 2 special attackers getting at special attack drop, and now the Rage Powder are going to mean this Roaring Moon is safe from the Draco Meteor this turn from Raging Bolt. Will get hit by the Heat Wave, but I have to assume this, yeah, the Raging Bolt's going for a Dragon move. So Roaring Moon is protected that turn, and now this next turn, Breaking Swipe is going to be able to knock out the Chi-Yu and get big damage on the Bolt, put it in range of the Iron Boulder, and it looks like he has this endgame wrapped up. It's going to be Thwackey versus the world. Not often won by Thwackey, that matchup. Not even going to be enough to Oko the Iron Boulder, and that's just going to go down to a knockoff. So really expert play from Look It Up. This game 2 was much more dominant. And it looks like I just linked the games in the wrong order, because this says next game 2 of 3. So they posted in the wrong order. That's not on me. But either way, Look It Up 2-0. Really dominant showing. And we go into a deciding game 8. So all the way down from 0-4, the Ballad of Dragons have brought it back to 3-4, and now Polish Elf, coming out of retirement, has to beat Marshy in this Brother Dog Classic. Now if Polish wins, we go to tiebreak, but if Marshy wins, the Blues will be advancing to the finals. So it's about as high stakes as you can get in a team tournament. Yay, back to singles. Yep. Thank you, Cinerath. Alright. Let's go ahead and look at this game. It is Gen 7, so Z users are on the table. We see a wishy-washy lead into Heatran as we just see Rocks as a U-turn comes out. Probably expecting the Vileplume or something to come in, maybe the Mew, like a specially defensive Mew. But Polish, no fear, just gets those rocks up, and Mandibuzz going to come in, take those rocks. But this Heatran could very well be fast taunt, which actually ends up being slower than Mandibuzz, so not able to taunt like Roosts or Defogs or anything like that. But these Flamethrowers are doing a little bit of damage. I don't know. It does feel like Mandibuzz will win this one long term. And it even has Bone Rush, which is super funny. Another Flamethrower, and now a Roost is pretty likely from the Mandibuzz. Is Polish going to take advantage? Now we get the taunt. Okay, so it's a slower taunt. But this Bone Rush might KO depending on how many hits it gets. Like, only 2 hits. Does Bone Rush get 2 to 5 hits? Or is it always 2? I don't know, nobody uses Bone Rush. I feel like it's 2 to 5. We'll continue to hate VGC Draft as long as I live. They gotta have a Scovillain to make it fun, I swear. But now Pidgeot finds its way onto the field. Coco, a pretty reasonable response to it. Do we see like a Mega and U-turn here? Which is just a Hurricane, which is going to crit the Coco. So forces a Roost, which is going to mean Vileplume gets a safe switch in. But instead, a Nature's Madness comes out. So this Coco either doesn't have Roost, or he's just not interested in clicking in it. So now the next turn that Pidgeot comes in, something might be dying to the combination of Hurricane and Heat Wave, because this Coco is very low now. Interesting to Nature's Madness there. I don't really like that play. And now the Sludge Bomb comes out, gets this Mandibuzz down to 29% with a Poison. Do we see a Roost? Do we see a Synthesis or a Strength Sap? We do. So Vileplume all the way back up to full. Mandibuzz is still threatening a knockoff, so probably going to see a Pidgeot switch here, as we do see it. Another Roost from Mandibuzz, so at least get something out of the turn, all the way back up to full. But now this Hurricane is looking really scary for Marshy to switch into. Wishy-Washy going to be the one to take it, and that does look to be Assault Vest Wishy-Washy, so it is able to take it that one time, but next time it cannot switch in. And this time we see Vileplume switch in. but able to take that Ice Beam, no problem. Another Strength Sap comes out, just keeping the Vileplume healthy. And this Ice Beam was a little bit of a lower roll, so able to just go for a Giga Drain pretty safely. Not in range of the next one. A U-turn comes out, but this Wishy-Washy now has lost its school form. It's basically dead, unless there's a Healing Wish from Jirachi. Now Coco comes in, strange enough. I don't know why Coco was the switch in there. You're just gonna have to switch again. Yeah. Mandibuzz comes in, and Brave Bird, the surprise reveal, is going to knock out the Vileplume. But Mandibuzz is now in range of rock, so this Pidgeot will be forcing a KO, and it will be the Mandibuzz. Now Coco comes in. It is Iapapa Berry, okay? So built-in recovery on the set. Makes me believe it's not Roost, given the plays that we've seen. Yeah, and there's a Wild Charge, which is not going to knock out the Skarmory. Whirlwind comes out into the Wishy-Washy. Now, if this Skarm has Roost, it's able to Roost here for free because it is baby form now. As Donphan comes in, takes the Brave Bird. But it looks like with Recoil, this Skarm is able to spin block the Donphan. Oh, but not quite. Not quite on the Recoil. So, rocks are now gone. But Pidgeot is still in position to claim. Jirachi going to come in, but that Hurricane reveals offensive Jirachi, and so a Heat Wave is coming out, but it is Scarf Jirachi goes for a U-turn into the Charizard. But like this Charizard is going to take so much damage from the Hurricane. Gets confused. Oh, is it going to hit itself? This is definitely scary. But it's not going to hit itself. Going to knock out the Pidgeot, and now Zygarde versus the world. Gonna go for an E-Speed, finish off this Charizard as it's locked into Outrage. Now Donphan comes in. Gonna go for a Dragon Dance. Able to take an Earthquake. No problem. Now Ice Shard comes out. But that's only doing 28%. Another Dragon Dance. And now Ice Shard puts it in Iapapa range? No, it's not Iapapa. It's probably a Z move then. Okay, Donphan takes 1,000 arrows, does 47. Which means that E-Speed might be in range? If this is an E-Speed range, it looks like Zygarde is just going to sweep. Can Donphan take an E-Speed? It can. Looks like a low roll on the E-Speed. The Ice Shard is going to knock it out, and now it's Mew versus the world. Can Mew do it? We see a Rock Polish. Okay, step 1. Earthquake only does 33%. And now a Nasty Plot. This is a +2 Mew. We see Ice Shard, not enough to knock it out. Psychic going to knock out the Donphan. Can the Jirachi live? We're going to use a switch to Coco, baiting the Z move. Catches the Z move. But it's Electrium. And now, by sacking the Coco instead of the Wishy-Washy, we've now given the T-Bolt Mew Electric Terrain, which will be enough to knock out the Jirachi. Oh my god, what a game. I mean, should have just sacked the Wishy-Washy, what can I say? Giving the Electric Terrain is so silly. And he's going to pay the price there by forcing his team into the tie breaks. Certified Brother Dog Classic. So true. And now we're on to tie breaks. You know what that means? Hold on. We gotta get the music switch. Where's my thing? This is the Blunder tournament music, right? What tiers are tie breaks? It's always SV and then one choice from the other two. So it's going to be SV, we're going to have VGC, and we're going to have what was it? Was it Swish? Or was it Gen 7? Hold on. It was Gen 7. Okay. So, here we have game 1, which is going to be the third time that these drafts have played each other. This time, the Urshifu is going to be Terra Poison, so still weak to ground, but this time able to set up on Pex and stuff. Not die to Meowscarada, that sort of thing. What a lame format for tie breaks. I mean, what do you want, right? What's your preferred tiebreak? Just rock, paper, scissors? I don't know how you're supposed to improve the format. 3 VGC? Okay. You might be onto something. But anyways, same matchup, same mons. Yeah. Or is this the same one? Or do they have multiple tread teams? Hold on. No, this is a different matchup. Okay. So this is not a repeat. It just has a treads. That's why I thought. Yeah, use a different draft. Yeah. I figured it out. Just took me a second. Alright, so this matchup, again, a treads mirror. I was saying VGC being voted for tiebreaks by one of the teams, not the formats being SV+2 voted. I mean, Look It Up is dominating their VGC, so I understand the pick. Like, you saw those games. Alright, and this one though, let's see. It's a Meowscarada mirror, a water fighting mirror, a treads mirror, a bulky do nothing poison mirror, offensive dragon mirror, and then a psychic mirror. These are the same teams, bro. Same structures, different mons. So, should be a pretty good one. One thing to note is that Hydreigon is literally god in this matchup. You just click Draco Meteor and something dies every time. So, yeah. So Hydreigon, massive threat. The Urshifu Rapid, also a pretty big threat. You're able to 1v1 most of the team. With Terra Psych or Terra Poison though, you are weak to the Mew, you're weak to the Treads. Like maybe not the strongest choice of Terra type. Isn't Pex a Draco resist? Yes and no, right? Because if Pex is your switch into Hydreigon and it's Nasty Plot Hydreigon, you're just cooked, right? If it's Sub Hydreigon, you're just cooked. If it's Taunt Hydreigon, you're just cooked. But if it's Scarf Hydreigon, you're good. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you beat some Hydreigons. Cool. But something like a Specs Hydreigon, really, really hard to deal with for Fierce Flamethrower. On the other side, though, this Dragonite, big threat. With the threat of like E-Speed on Meowscarada, you always have to maintain HP on that guy. Fez, Treads, all these guys that are supposed to like check Dragon types, they're all weak to EQ. So EQ Dragonite, really major threat here. One thing to note is that Meowscarada for Nuzlocke is actually quite strong in this matchup because Pex is the like switch into it, but there's a Gothitelle on that team. So Pex can be a liability. Even Shed Shell, right, can just get knocked off by the Meowscarada. Or if you U-turn on a helmet, you know it's not Shed Shell, so Goth can just come in and trap it for free. Nothing Pex can do to prevent Goth from killing it, right? And this Goth is also Terra, right? Terra Fairy Goth, which is interesting, right? The idea is, I guess if you kill the Pex, then you can Terra Fairy and maybe potentially sweep, but still there's gonna have to be a Treads to deal with. Either way. On the other side, let's see, the Keldeo, massive threat, kind of forces 80 Fezandipity. That's also the reason why you see the Terra Poison or Shifu, right? Just to be that secret sword check. Anything else I want to say about this? There is a Terra Bug Mew. This Mew is like really strong, both as a Dragon Dance set or a Nasty Plot set. Both of them very reasonable here. You could see Nasty Plot Vacuum Wave, then a Psychic move, and maybe Earth Power for the Treads, maybe, or you have Vacuum Wave for the Treads, it's fine. Maybe Dazzling Gleam for the Hydreigon, something like that. Or you could be this set, which is going to be Bug Dragon Dance, and you have Leech Life and you have Edge Quake, or you could be Aqua Tail. There's a bunch of coverage moves for this Mew that work in this matchup. But Terra Bug is quite cool because you're able to set up on Treads, you're able to set up on Urshifu, you're able to set up on Meowscarada. A lot of setup opportunities for Bug Mew. Let's get into the game. Game 1 of the tiebreaks. Now, immediately, Keldeo overpredicts, goes for a Hydro Pump on the Hydreigon. This is expecting a Fezandipity switch in, and reveals to be Specs Keldeo with that damage into Hydreigon. The Hydreigon goes for a Draco Meteor, and a crit turn 1 into Keldeo. Now, I'm pretty sure this Hydreigon was choice specs, so that crit actually doesn't really matter. It would have died either way. But now, we just sack our Hydreigon. And this is something that I don't understand, right? Like, can we not switch in on a U-turn? It's really unreasonable for Meowscarada to go for anything other than a U-turn there. If you go for like a triple axle into like Pheasantipede and its helmet, you just freaking lose the game. So like a U-turn is like pretty safe, kills the Hydreigon. Can we not just go Fez there? Save our Hydreigon, which kills everything on the roster. I really didn't like that that Hydreigon sack. Because now Dragonite gets a free switch in, Meowscarada in, threatens the triple axle, and we triple axle into the Toxapex, which is not Rocky Helmet, thank God, but it is eject button. So it's going to be a free switch to Iron Treads, which is going to be attack booster, which is a massive threat here. Gothitelle going to be the switch in to the booster attack Earthquake, and I don't think this works because we have no way of killing this. So it sets up a Reflect. Now the Urshifu's on the field, but the Pex is there. And now we've lost our Gothitelle, so we have no way of trapping this Pex. And we don't have our Specs Hydreigon, so this Pex can just kind of sit on a lot of stuff. We get Trailblaze immediately as Sludge Bomb comes out. It's leftovers Urshifu, interesting enough. But this Pex should be able to 1v1 this pretty reasonably. But we see a Haze, and they're like, okay, is this not Surf or anything? I don't know why you wouldn't have Surf in the Treads matchup. And now Thunder Punch is going to paralyze the Toxapex. So now this Toxapex is looking like it might lose 1v1 to the Urshifu. We're really focused on hazing away this +1 speed, which is really interesting to me. Like, is it really that scary? I feel like no, right? So we're going to use up a lot of recovers, just trying to keep this Urshifu at neutral. And finally the para starts hitting. See one para, we see another para. So Urshifu able to make it out with the +1 speed intact. Sure. But now Mew can come in. Mew can go for a Dragon Dance here. Gonna outspeed the Urshifu next turn. But it just goes for a Psychic instead. Now I was not expecting this to be a special Mew when it's Terra Bug, because Terra Bug DD is like really strong into this team. But it was max special attack modest Psychic, which OHKOs the Terra Poison Urshifu. And that was a surprise KO for Nazarmat as well as me watching this live. So came in clutch there from Fierce Flamethrower. But yeah. Now Meowscarada comes in, can just go for a knockoff now that the Pex is dead. It's pretty easy, but Tread's gonna come in, so Nazarmat actually makes a nice play and U-turns on that thing to get Treads in for a speed tie and goes for a rapid spin. This is expecting the Dragonite to switch in, but does not get it. And now Earthquake is going to do 74% because this is Adamant Treads. But now Fierce Flamethrower goes into Dragonite, pulls the trigger, and gets in on the Earthquake. And that's going to be the game pretty much, because now, I mean, once that Iron Treads comes in the next time, you're basically cooked. Triple Axle going to knock out the Dragonite, but now I believe you can just go into Treads and go for a spin and you win the game. Alright, Triple Axle, not close to knocking you out. Goes for a Mega Horn, I feel like that's fine. Sure, that works too. And now Earthquake, not gonna one-shot the Fez, but gonna get damn close to it. And the Fez cannot hit back, it just has Icy Wind, so that's going to be game 1, going to the Booloos. Alright. High stakes games here. And now we have Look It Up versus Jesus. Alright, another VGC game. This one was a banger, I'm not gonna lie. Very cool to watch. We see a Rain team, kind of. There's no Pelipper, but maybe it was on the bench. I can fact check that actually. Hold on. Is there a Pelipper on here? There's no Pelipper on this team. Interesting. So we have a half Rain team. I don't know, man. I just work here. Regardless, there's the Rain Dance option from the Tornadus, and that will set up the Basculegion and the Archaludon to do big damage. And we see a Mabostiff, the goat. Manual Rain may be better than Pelipper. Pelipper sucks. Pelipper is so good in VGC. It's unreal how good it is. But either way, here we are. Let's get into the game. We see a Roaring Moon and a Urshifu lead up against Torn and Archaludon. So going for the rain mode with Jesus on the lead. But with this Urshifu threatening a CC into Archaludon and Roaring Moon able to, break the sturdy. This Archaludon might be more so forced to Terra. What Terra is it? It's Terra Water, which actually looks really nice here on this turn. So I would expect to see something like a Rain Dance, Terra Water Archaludon, and then you Electroshot into the Urshifu. I feel like that seems really reasonable. This Urshifu is Terra Electric though, so it could Terra to counter that out. I don't know how likely that is though. I feel like exhausting Terra as to Urshifu is probably unwise. We actually don't see the play that I said. We see a Mabostiff switch instead, but we do see the double Terra, so look it up, deciding that it is worth it to guard against that Rain Dance Electroshot Terra Water play. And is going to actually knock off the right slot, so we're doubling into the support slot instead. And now this knockoff gets rid of the helmet, which is really important for the Urshifu, because that would have taken half, and a really unfortunate Draco miss. That really sucks for Jesus, I cannot lie. That damage on Urshifu would have been really, really important. But Mabostiff comes in, intimidates the Roaring Moon at least. So now both these physical attackers are pretty weakened. And yeah, now a Snarl comes out. Yeah, Roaring Moon reveals more of a support set, which it often is in VGC. But Surging Strike's just going to knock out this Mabostiff. And now a Draco Meteor comes out. And after the Snarl, not even enough to Oko the Roaring Moon, which is kind of crazy to me. Now we're going to see Fungus switch in, resetting the -1 Intimidate on the Urshifu, and just protecting the Roaring Moon. Now here, you have the option of Rage Powder, but it's not really going to be worth it too much when Bleak Wind is such a great option. So Roaring Moon just going to get the knockoff on the Torn, reveals Life Orb actually, and it's going to go down to the Bleak Wind, which also does 60 to Fungus, which is kind of crazy. But this Arch is doing basically no damage after all these special attack drops. And we see a Spore go into that slot, but Arch reveals Safety Goggles, which is kind of crazy. Like, we're really giving Fungus the respect in the builder, which is nice to see. Obviously it worked out, right? But now this Fungus is very low. Torn, massive threat, so Urshifu comes in. Now if this Urshifu is Scarf, it should be able to knock out the Torn before it kills the Fungus. Or you could just switch out the Fungus, get your Regenerator. But then you reveal your fourth Pokemon. So here we see a Tailwind, and Urshifu just go for a Thunder Punch, knocks out the Torn. And we see a side Pollen Puff, which is interesting. Now we see a Rage Powder on the last respects, pulling it away from the Urshifu, and now an Electroshock comes out, which is definitely strange. I don't know why we Electroshotted there. Could we not just attack the Urshifu slot? I mean, sure, there's a Rage Powder, but like, it went down. So now Iron Boulder comes in. So what was the idea with the Electroshot there? Maybe the idea is if the Enamorus is the last Pokemon, then you already have a loaded up Electroshot into that slot. Yeah, Hiss. Yeah, I got there. I'm figuring it out. So you're calling the Enamorus last, and then you get the special attack boost, which allows you to Oko the Urshifu with Draco later. And the Urshifu can't 1v1 the Arch with stamina. But unfortunately for Jesus, the last one is not Enamorus, it's an Iron Boulder. Electroshock goes into that slot, but now Thunder Punch. Even gets a Para, but yeah, the game was wraps here. So that is game 1, and now we can go to game 2. Alright, let's see this one. Now Roaring Moon and Urshifu Rapid versus Torn and the Arch, so same lead. Again, we see the same Mabostiff play and the same Terra Water, but this time no Terra Electric on the Urshifu, correctly calling that there's going to be no Rain Dance there. Considering we've revealed its Life Orb Torn, and it had Tailwind, I don't know exactly. I guess we're expecting Bleak Wind to not come out there, basically. And now we see a Snarl and a U-turn to Fungus, which is going to guard against the same Draco play into that right slot. But this time we see a Dragon Tail gets rid of the booster speed on the Roaring Moon, and her Shifu is forced back in. So this time we're going to see Terra Electric. Why do we Terra Electric here? I guess we just want the boost on Thunder Punch to hit the Archaludon really hard. Still only does 43% thanks to the defense boost it already had. Sludge Bomb comes out, gets the poison crucially, and another Dragon Tail comes out. I really feel like you could just Draco that slot, but okay, Dragon Tails. Now Iron Boulder comes in, goes for a CC into the Mabosstiff, which is going to knock it out, and now we get the Draco off, but the Iron Boulder not going to go down to that, and the side Pollen Puff is really nice here. Now you see Basculegion in, threatening an Aqua Jet into the Iron Boulder slot. Goes for a Flip Turn instead on the Protect and actually gets Spored, which is really, really great from the Fungus. And we see a switch to Arch, sacking it off on the Mighty Cleave, just trying to burn a Sleep Turn here. But the side Pollen Puff going to mean Iron Boulder's back up to full. Now with the Tailwind, goes for the Wake Up, but no such luck. And yeah, the double attack into Torn. It's looking like the game is over. Yeah, this Basculegion is locked into Flip Turn. The Iron Boulder's Sash anyways, so that double attack was still going through into that Torn no matter what. I think he had it all covered. But yeah, really dominant from Look It Up. Definitely got lucky in game 1, but game 2, I mean, you could say the poison immediately on Arch was a little bit lucky, but he did play this one really, really well. So, deserved to win, is what I say. And now, for all of the marbles, the game 3 of tie breaks. Fungus has to be like 16 points, right? Gotta be close to that. Something like that. But anyways, we have Money Guy versus Marshy in Gen 7. To decide who gets to go to finals up against the Ivy League Cudgels. Let's get right into it. Heatran leads off into the Kyurem. This could be rocks here if it's a Shukaberry Heatran, which it is. Gets crit, but that doesn't really matter to a KO'd anyway. Now Scrafty going to be the pivot in on the next Earth Power, but a Toxic, really nice play from Marshy, catches the Scrafty, which is not Shed Skin, it is Intimidate. So this Toxic is going to stick unless it's Heal Bell Lantern, which, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to spend a turn going for that. So Scrafty catches a Toxic, and now it's going to be an Ice Beam immediately because Kyurem does not go down to a defensive Scrafty at all, so can afford to stay in and go for that attack, weaken the Scrafty for things like the Mew, like the Celesteela. Now Diancie finds a safe pivot in on the Drain Punch, and now probably going to see Rocks trade, or maybe the Rocks are on Stunfisk. So yeah, Diamond Storm comes out, knocks out the Heatran, which was just getting sacked off. Now Pidgeot comes in, the most obvious HP steal ever, so when he actually makes a nice double into Zygarde, expecting the Stunfisk to want to come in on the Pidgeot, but Marshy one step ahead, makes the double switch anticipating the Zygarde, while also somewhat covering an HP steal from Pidgeot by going into Mew. And now obviously Mew could be packing the Ice Beam, could be Will-O-Wisp, you don't want to stay in as the Zygarde here. Even especially now, you reveal Leftovers, and now we see a double switch to the Scrafty. Oh, but Money Guy, the Balls of Steel to stay in a Dragon Dance here. Kind of crazy. Does work out a little bit though. I say a little bit. The Intimidate does kind of even that out. This is like a DPL Season 2 finale. Kind of is, not gonna lie. Now this Zygarde is back to neutral, +1 speed, but Leftover Scrafty means this is likely going to be very defensive. We see a Super Fang come out. Super Fang makes a lot of sense. You want to get the Zygarde low without worrying about weakness policy with an Ice Punch. So yeah, puts the Zygarde in range of the next Ice Punch while not triggering policy. Another Dragonite comes out. Does it have Ice Punch? Oh, it doesn't kill the Zygarde. So a very bulky Zygarde set here. And if you look at it, the only potential priority is that Mew. So we see a +2 Zygarde here. Could potentially be Z move, right? There's no policy, there's no Iapapa Berry, it's probably Z, right? So something's dying here. The Z gets popped, Scrafty gonna go down to the Devastating Drake. Now what is going to take on this +2 hit? Celesteela comes in, can it take a +2 arrows? And it does. So Steela able to check the Zygarde, but it does take a lot of damage in the meantime, and the Scrafty does go down. So basically a 2-for-2 trade, all things considered. But Marshy does have a sack fodder Steela, but Money has rocks up, so call it even, right? See a Heat Wave on the Mew, but this is Spadef Mew, so it is able to take even those Hurricanes. A Roost comes out. Money Guy just fishing for Confusions, and now a Defog. So it gets rid of those rocks, which is really important for the Kyurem. Really nice stuff from Marshy, able to roost that off. And Money Guy doesn't have a great way of breaking this Mew. Finally gets the Confusion, but Pidgeot gets Toxic on the same turn. So now we're going to see a switch to Lantern. Probably going to want to Heal Bell off these Toxics. And there is that Heal Bell, as Stunfisk is going to take it as an opportunity to get up the rocks, which is going to limit the Pidgeot switching severely. Now Lantern going to go for a Toxic of its own, but Kyurem, already Toxic, gets a free switch in. And now threatening an Earth Power for big damage. Scrafty going to be the switch in, and catches a Toxic on the switch. Now nothing really wants to come in on this Scrafty super well. I mean, DNC is going to do it, but a double to Lantern, right? Now a little bit of an HP trade from this DNC, which actually lives the Scald, no burn, and is going to 2-hit KO the Lantern with Diamond Storm and a Moonblast. Now Pidgeot comes in, it's looking pretty dire. This Mew, it looks like it's going to be an endgame beast with the Scrafty Toxic. And there's a full HP Stunfisk at the end of the day as well, which also needs to get through. So yeah, another Toxic. Marshy has a lot of Toxic users here. Toxic Kyurem, Toxic Stunfisk, Toxic Mew, and looks like Money Guy was not really that prepared. However, when there's a Mew, there's a way. We saw this in the regular series from the semifinals, where Polish was able to reverse sweep with a Mew. So don't count Money Guy out quite yet. This Scrafty is going to knock out the Celesteela with a knockoff. Now I assume this DNC is coming into revenge. There's the DNC. And Mew might be able to set up on this DNC, depending on investment. Here's the Mew. We see a Vacuum Wave knocks out the DNC. I don't know about that. I feel like that needed to be your setup opportunity. Like if you were able to Nasty Plot on the DNC, I actually know this Mew set, so I'll go ahead and reveal it. It's Aya Papa Berry, Nasty Plot, 3 attacks. I believe it's Dazzling Gleam Psychic as the coverage. It might be T-Bolt, it might be something like that for the Steela, but regardless, it is Nasty Plot, Aya Papa. And DNC might not 2-hit KO with its attack, so if it's able to live 2 hits and go for the Nasty Plot, that would have been pretty nice. And there is the Nasty Plot, but now a Toxic is going to come out, and that's going to put this Mew on a timer. We don't really have that much time. Another Nasty Plot comes out, but an Ice Beam is going to really chip this thing down. Now I believe this Dazzling Gleam is going to knock out the Kyurem. And now we get the Aya Papa Berry. Okay, so a few more turns to go. But Mew, this Mew is like max special defense. Can it live a +4 hit? We have Thunderbolt, and it does just barely live. If it died there, I think the Stunfisk was also dead, or at least 2-hit KO'd. But I feel like the Toxic was also adding up. So maybe Marshy had it either way, even if it was a roll, if the Mew went down. But now a Roost comes out and the game looks completely done. And now, Marshy's only lose condition is getting crit with a T-Bolt here. So gonna make a really intelligent play going into Stunfisk, trying to catch that T-Bolt, rack up more Toxic damage. But Money Guy goes for a Dazzling Gleam, a heads up play there. But he would need to crit this Stunfisk and then crit the Mew as well. So really low odds, doesn't get it. And now there's not enough time. Toxic is racking up, and Father Time will claim this Mew, and that is going to be the series. Tapu Bulu's going on to the finals, Battle of Dragons going out sad in the semifinals. And that is all we have today, folks. Next week is going to be the finals of DFL. That's being played currently this week. If they go to tie breaks, we might wait an extra week to get all the games on the same stream. Regardless, that's going to be it. +4 Mew not doing 50 to things is so sad. Yeah, it was more of a bulky Mew, which is why I was saying you probably could afford to set up on the DNC and not on the Toxic Kyurem. I feel like that would have just been a better option for Money Guy. But at the end of the day, I don't know if that would have been enough to win. I feel like it would have made the game closer, but maybe my head calcs are a little bit off and DNC just does more than I expect. I don't know. It is a strong mon. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I do have to bounce. And thanks for watching. See you guys next week for the final.